Welcome to Three Questions With, a program by the Latino News Network produced in collaboration with CAN TV. LNN is dedicated to best serving Hispanic Latinos with local multimedia news and information websites in the Northeast and the Midwest that include Illinois Latino News, a statewide community-focused initiative. Three Questions With is a public affairs program elevating the voices and visibility of matters most important to the Hispanic Latino community by speaking with community and industry thought leaders on the social determinants of health and democracy. I'm Hugo, publisher of LNN and your host. Judicial process refers to the legal proceedings and actions taken in a court of law. It includes all the steps involved in a legal case, from the initial filing of a lawsuit to the final judgment or determination. The clerk of the circuit court is the official record keeper for the courts. The circuit clerk is an integral part of the entire county governmental process and is endowed with specific authority to aid and promote the judicial process. The primary duty of the circuit clerk is to assist in preparing and maintaining court records, collecting fees and fines, and processing paperwork. The Cook County Circuit Court is the largest court system in Illinois and the second largest unified court system in the world. The staff is composed of more than 1,400 employees. Currently, the office has approximately 24 million case files, of which nearly 4 million are active case files. Leading it all is Clerk Iris Y. Martinez, who made history when she was elected as the first Latina clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County in 2020. Clerk Martinez's time as an elected official began in January 2003, when she was sworn in as the first Latina elected to the Illinois State Senate, representing the people of the 20th Legislative District. Iris Y. Martinez is our guest today. Clerk Martinez, welcome to the program. Now, full disclosure, before we begin, I am the Deputy Public Information Officer in the office of the Clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County, so I am speaking to my boss today. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.
It is a pleasure to have you as our first guest for the fall-winter season. Clerk Martinez, you have centered your efforts on the statutory duties and responsibilities of the office while supporting your mission to update and increase the use of technology, transform operations, and increase transparency. Let's begin there. Madam Clerk, explain to us the work of the office and highlight some of the initiatives that you have implemented.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Hugo. Today I'm not your boss. Today I'm just a guest on your show. But let's talk about the office and all the much needed, efficiencies that we needed to create in that office. As a former senator, I used to hear from a lot of constituents coming into the Senate office about complaints in the office about, delayed paperwork and all kinds of issues in the office. Today, as the clerk and knowing and remembering some of these concerns, I brought them to the forefront of what we need to address. First and foremost, the call center. We created a call center. We had, when you talk about a division at the Daily Center and you have all these lines that were supposed to be directed to all of the different, parts of our office, let it be Chancery, Probate, Law Division, Civil. I decided that, and people were calling into those divisions and we're not getting a live person on the other line. The first thing was that call center was created for that purpose, to make sure that we streamline all those calls into one area. We're now seeing, it started in June of this year, we've seen over 1,200 phone calls on a daily basis that come in. Right now, I can say that we've already addressed 77,000 people have been taken care of at the call center by them people calling in there. And one of the things that we offer is in 200 different languages. That means that people that cannot speak, any particular language, we have clerks that are, attending to this in lingo that we have in the office, and we have interpreters that can help them resolve their issues through with the clerk online at the moment that they call, which is, I think, is very important. And we've seen that the call, the wait time is maybe less than 4 minutes. We know that, there's a lot of improvement we continue to make, but that was one area that I felt that we had to do that because of the fact that now people are getting service. They're not at the other end waiting, for someone to answer the line, and never get someone on the other line. We have that. We also talked about clerk in the communities. When you talk about what's going on in the communities, we wanted people to know that we were going into the communities, especially in these communities that lack the resources, the information about what our court system has to offer. We have so many things. I've gone to Maine Township. I've gone to Roseland. We've gone to Inglewood. We're going to Inglewood this Saturday. But we also went to, we went to areas like Maine Township. That is an area that, needed our services there. We sat, we talked to, we brought our equipment, we brought our clerks. People are able to go into these events that we have and find out they have old warrants or anything that might affect them. And I'm happy to report that these clerks in the community are really working. People are very excited. We are having people. We talk to all the elected officials, all in those areas, community-based organizations, faith-based organizations that are there. I've been working with the faith-based community because many of them are looking for expungements. We have a big expungements that we're doing basically on a daily basis. We're trying to work with people that need the expungement information. So with the community-based pastors, we've been able to have these individuals that are a little scared, to come in and talk to us. We go to them, we sit with them, we work in getting their application process done. We have the legal team. We have a lot of legal partners that we're working with right now that are so happy to help the individuals, help their application processes, so we can make sure that one time that their application is completely and also looked by the legal team, then we can go on and move that expungement application to the judge. And there, it takes a little process, but we're seeing more and more. When I got to that office, we saw over 5,600 expungement applications that had never been acted on. Today, I can report that those expungements were down to 175 of them left from the 5,600 that we found in backlog. Those are the important things that our office are doing right now. When we go into the community and we hear and we see it talk about these warrants, we found over 10,000 old warrants that were in the system for the last 5 years. We're down to about 100 that are left for us to take care of. So you can see there's a lot of things that we're doing in this office, information that we're sharing, resources, making sure that, we're doing that. We also opened up a pro se litigant office. That was very important. We saw lines of people that had no representation, but they were looking for some answers on how to file their own paperwork. One of the things that I said, they need a private space. We got the Cabrini Green legal team to be part of our partners. We were able to open up a nice little space for them, so now they can make an appointment, have someone from the legal representation talk to them about what they need to do, because right now there's so many people that cannot afford attorneys and they have to self-represent themselves. But what more than having an office where they can have the legal team work with them, prepare them, and they can go in front of a judge and they don't have to worry about having to have a lawyer because they can't afford one. And that's something that's an office that I want to make sure. So it's right there at 69 West Washington on the lower level. It's right there. Anyone that wants to have questions about self-representing themselves, we have people there. We have a clerk there that will make an appointment and get the legal team to meet with you.
Yeah, and I think partnerships are so important for the successes. You've mentioned the clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County provides information, but they don't provide any legal aid. So it's really good to partner with these third parties to get them that type of help. Well, a lot of what you mentioned, and we're going to touch a little bit more on expungement and sealing of records in a second, but a lot of services, a lot of divisions at the office, all of which are readily accessible. And in fact, there's a program, Clerk in the Community, that is produced here at CAN TV. It's a monthly program. I invite you to watch it. Every month, you'll hear from different clerks on different divisions with the clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County, because we're talking about a lot of information that can be overwhelming and complicated. And so I know whether it's at the office, whether it's through the website, whether it's these programs, it's about providing information, education to empower the public to make the best decision possible. So let's now dive a little deeper in our second topic with expungements and the sealing of records. It's a complicated, long process. that requires planning. The clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County provides the participants in the judicial system with efficient and transparent services. As you've mentioned, the office partners with organizations like Legal Aid in providing people with help in background checks and filing expungements. One of the things that I've seen that you've led with the office beginning this year, in order to educate people about the process, is one, having forums about expungements and the sealing of records, and then partnering and following up in how to petition. So helping people with the petition for those expungements. Tell us, and I've seen you out there, share with us a little bit more about that and some of the stories that you hear from people who are, who maybe made a mistake when they were young, and it's followed them, as you've said, and whether they're applying for a job or they're applying for a mortgage. Share with a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that's something that we saw. We heard for so many years over and over about something expungements program under my predecessor that never really saw, closure. They would have them, the summits, and then they were going nowhere. Proof of that is that we found 5,600 of them on backlog, and we wanted to take care of that first. Now we are actually going and teaming up with our pastors, those reverends, pastors, the faith-based organizations that are out there that are very in touch with the people in the community that need these services. The first thing I want to do is go out there. We had a meeting, the first time we had a meeting with about 6 or 7 pastors out in Roseland. We told them what was needed. They actually found the individuals that were looking for the help. We sat with them and brought the packages out. She went around making sure that, all the pastors went around making sure that they got their rap sheets, making sure that they had everything, every paperwork necessary, so then they can sit down with the legal team. That we have a day of what we call the expungement day, which is the day that we have everybody that has the applications ready to go. When they will sit with the legal aid team and make sure that legal person will go through everything with them to make sure there's nothing missing, so that their application is complete. So one time we get it to the judge's office, then we don't have to worry about that no more. And one of the things that people don't realize is that they don't know what is sealable, what is expungible. And that's something that's very important. And I know that my team has been talking a lot about that on your show, about exactly that. We wanted to make sure that people know that there are certain things that they cannot expunge. However, they can seal it. And we're doing this because we know that out in the communities, people are looking for housing, people are looking for jobs, and these are impediments. I met this young man who he said to me, I did something when I was 18 years old. He's now 30 something. It came back to haunt him when he actually applied for a job. It came back to haunt him. So he came and he wanted to make sure that he can get that, and we took care of him. I saw this young couple, a really beautiful young couple who had a baby, and said to me, "Thank you, Clerk Martinez, because now we can be proud to let our child know that this is part of our past, and now he doesn't have to worry about what his parents did in the past, and this has cleaned up our life. And we want to make sure that our child has a better future with parents, that made a mistake, recognize it, took care of it, and now they can move forward." So there's a lot of stories like that. There's a lot, we saw a lot of people that finally had hope again. Felt, they come in thinking, oh, this is not going to happen, and it's not the case. We sit down, we go through them, we make sure that we answer all their questions. The pastors, they have worked with us day in and day out about bringing them forward. So we're going to continue. So much that I've decided that one of the things in my next term, I want to be able to create a division of just expungements where people can go on a daily basis if they want to come in and bring, their application. The legal team already has told us that they're going to work with us on that. But I think, instead of having these summits whenever we can have them, I want to have a division where we can it could be an everyday process, so we can continue to expunge and seal records for individuals, because the more they're hearing about it, the more we're seeing people come to us about wanting those services.
That's wonderful. And it's really needed in order to course correct people's expectation of what the process is. I know, and I've heard it from you, too often previously people would show up thinking it's a one-day process. I'm going to show up and I'm going to get my record expunged or sealed, but it's very long, and it's really subjective. It really depends on what the rap sheet looks like. So it could be 18 months, it could be shorter, it could be longer, but again, informing, educating really helps in people empowered to make better decisions and have better expectations about what the process is going to be. One of the things that I wanted to mention also in regards to some of the things that you've instituted has been partnering. You talked about coalitions with ministers and building those relationships and that trust, but partnerships with OCJ's Domestic Violence Committee about quashed and recalled over 10,000 nonviolent misdemeanor. Tell us about that.
Those are the warrants. We've found over 10,000, warrants that were, nonviolent warrants that were in the system, and for the last 5 years, and we've been, recall and quashing as much as we can, making sure that these things people don't realize sometimes. That's why we have the community, the clerk in the community, because people can go check to make sure that they don't have something in the system that they might not even know about. You know what I mean? Things that might have happened 20 and 30 years ago. We've seen this by individuals that have come in and said, this happened to me 30 years ago. And today, when I went to go apply for a security job, they didn't want to give it to me. So again, they're hearing of it. And to know that there was over 10,000 warrants that were in the system for the last 5 years. That technology, we have actually brought in, a team of technologists that are just phenomenal. These people in IT are doing work. They created a website that has become so easy, user-friendly to navigate. We wanted to make sure that we are going to create the very best, most user-friendly website. And we did. And, I can say that we've already claimed a couple of awards of the website, as one of the best websites out there globally of a government website. And that brings a prop. But every day we're still updating. We're still, making sure that technology is at the highest. And what we found out was that the reason why it was hacked, it was old software that was there, old data software that was there that had never been changed out. So again, we got so much going on right now in technology. So we always have to be at the top of our game when it comes to technology. And that's something the team that we have there has been doing exactly that, making sure that we are, creating the most easiest way that people can find out information about themselves, about their case. We have so many divisions, in our office, and people don't even realize that, civil, criminal, probate. We see a lot of probate, guardianship, adoptions. So there's a lot that's going on in our office. So you can imagine that technology is so important to people out there, because it will at least avoid them having to really come down to the Daily Center or any of the courthouses if we can do this all online.
It's all about access, and you can visit this award-winning website, which, as Madam Clerk has mentioned, has been redesigned to make it easier to navigate. And I should mention also, when you go online, you will also see those services translated in more than 200 languages as well, just like the Customer Service Center. That website is cookcountyclerkofcourt.org. You're watching Three Questions with Iris Y. Martinez, Clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County. When we come back, Clerk Martinez will get a little personal with us, sharing her family roots, upbringing, and lived experience, and how that's inspired the work that she leads today.
I'm Jamira Alexander, inviting you to join me for the series premiere of Public Narratives, A Word, with my very special guest, Arkie Adams, former artistic director and cultural strategist for Looking Glass Theater, and Takuma Roback, managing editor of the Chicago Defender. Join the conversation Thursday, September 14th at 7 p.m. on Cable Channel 19 and streaming on cantv.org and the CanTV Plus app. Experience the power of community television.
We've been talking to Iris Y. Martinez, Clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County, about the work of the office, including the process of expungement and sealing records. Before we get personal, I did want to talk to you about the Domestic Violence Committee. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we've been very involved. That's one thing that's very close to my heart. We have, so many women are so afraid about, filing for orders of protection. Today, we do have, a much more working relationship with the OCJ's office, the office of the judge. But we also wanted to make sure that there's after hours, because sometimes people are working. Some women, are afraid to come because they're either taking care of their children. But we have after hours, and we have overnight clerks that are ready with a judge standing by just in case an order of protection has got to be filed right away. There is no, you don't have to worry about doing it in the morning. We can do it at any time. We wanted to make sure that that's something that I wanted the people out there to know, that we do have, extended hours when it comes to orders of protection, to making sure that we are addressing the domestic violence situation that has become a crisis in our communities. So our office wants to make sure that overnight there is services overnight that we can provide to make sure that they have access to our system, and making sure that the order of protection is filed as soon as we possibly can. So.
Yeah, very important. And a couple of weeks ago, we saw, unfortunately, what had happened with the wife and her daughter being killed by their father. And I know this is very important to you.
It's very close to my heart.
Close to your heart. You're a champion of so many different initiatives. Now talking about the third topic, as someone who's dedicated her whole life to public service, beginning with a state senator and now as the clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County, just to name a few. Tell us where does this passion for serving the community come from? Tell us about, as a native Chicagoan, tell us your origin story.
Well, I was born and raised in the Humboldt Park area, in the Westtown area. That's where I grew up. You seeing everything, and one of the things that my father and my grandmother were about was always about helping people. My father worked for Department of Human Services, and at the time I used to go around with him, doing things because, in the evenings that he had to go and deliver food or find people to find jobs. My father was very involved. So I think that that's something that has led me into public service. I enjoyed it. And as I kept, then I went to work for the city of Chicago. So back in the early 1990s, I went to work for the city of Chicago, and it's funny because I started as in the mailroom. I was actually in the mailroom. I almost spent 20 years in the city of Chicago. From the mailroom, I went to assistant to the mayor. So, I worked myself up because of my involvement in the community. I was already working with the Latino ministers on behalf of the mayor, and that gave me even much more of the sense that our community needed a voice, needed someone that can, stand up for them and for the voices that we have, and that I think prompted me then to go. The mayor sent me to Springfield to lobby some bills for the city of Chicago, and I got to meet a lot of people in Springfield. I guess I got the bug. Senator Miguel del Valle, who was my mentor, who I will always remember in my heart because he was someone that really told me, you got the potential to be that voice. And he goes, there was an open seat created in 2000 by the census, and I became a senator. There's so many voiceless individuals out there, and there's so many concerns and crises going on in our community, from housing to crime, to domestic violence. There's so much going on because now I see it up close and personal. We see a lot of things from the criminal activities that are that come into our bond courts and everything that goes on a daily basis in our office. Hearing and sometimes just listening to what's going on out there and what our system, our access to justice, making sure that it's easy for any individual to be able to come into our office and access whatever it is they need to make sure that they are going to be okay and their family. So for me, it's been always about that. It's not, people talk about, electeds, you're in an ivory tower. No, I'm very hands-on. I'm in the community. I am hands-on, making sure that I'm dealing with the situations, being part of the decision-making when it comes to what is the best thing that we can do to offer these resources and how much more can we expand to make sure that people are getting the very best of government. Don't be afraid to come to our office. Don't be afraid to ask questions. I know in the past people says, well, if there's a warrant out, am I going to be arrested? No, we're going to let you know there's a warrant, and it's up to you to take care of that. We make sure that tell people it's a safe place. You're looking for inquiries about something in your life. We want to make sure that we're able to give you the answer. Then it's up to you to decide whether you need legal assistance. We are just a keeper of the records. All we are, people come to our office to file whatever it is they need. That's what we are. We're the official keeper of the records. However, we don't give legal advice, but we do connect. We do try to connect people with the legal aid individuals. We want to make sure that any kind of concerns that they may have, let it be, when it comes to their mom's will, or an estate, that we're taking care of the basic needs that the office got to offer. Again, that's called access to justice, and that's what we want to make sure that we continue to do in that office.
Yeah. So often the barriers is a lack of access, and I really appreciate you saying and putting into action through your work at the Circuit Court, making it much more accessible to the public in order for them to really, again, help themselves, whether it's through the website, whether it's going to where they live.
Whether it's calling the call center, right? Calling the call center. Again, it's access to justice, making sure that the call center is there for you, the pro se litigant officer for you, the communities and the clerk in the communities is there for you to access. Expungements, information on expungement, on sealing, on any issue dealing with the judicial. That's what we're there for. And I want people not to be afraid. I want people to come and feel, safe, that they're going to be their needs are going to be taken care of, and that again, that's our job. That is our job, and we got to take care of our people.
I mean, and it's great to learn, how your parents and your father inspired you at a very young age, the importance of serving the community and giving back. And I'm certainly a testament to that. Like my father also, I remember going with him to pick up people at the airport, people that I didn't know, people from Peru, where our family's from, and helping them find a place to live, temporary place to live, and temporary work. And so I see that also in what you shared in regards to you and your father going out and helping.
My father worked for Human Services, so when it came to the summer programs, he made sure that I was working in the summer programs. I remember when Richard J. Daley was around, that I actually was a 15-year-old in the called the Urban Progress Center before it became, Human Services. But my father was a driver, and I just seeing him picking up people, bringing them there for jobs, bringing them there for food, bringing them there for housing, for question. I mean, that to me was an inspiration that I said, this is probably where I'm going to end up. And I did, because I ended up going to a non-for-profit first, working in a non-for-profit organization. And then I went to the city, working with the pastors, working with community-based organizations, with schools, with many of our high schools that needed, access, especially when I was in the Senate. So it's always been about helping people in my community, helping people all over, creating laws that, again, are going to benefit our community, they're going to benefit individuals, and improve the quality of life for people.
Absolutely. Madam Clerk, you've been so generous with your time. Thank you so much for being our guest.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me here.
And now, la última palabra, the last word on racial equality in the justice system. Latinos, Black Americans, and Native Americans face high rates of imprisonment. These communities experience disproportionate rates of arrest, pretrial detention, incarceration, and community supervision compared to white people. Racial inequality in criminal justice is tied to current and historical inequalities in crime and neighborhood conditions. Research by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine documented substantial racial and ethnic disparities in the criminal justice process. According to their report, Reducing Racial Inequality in Crime and Justice, Science, Practice, and Policy, it is because of the relationship between racial inequality in criminal justice and racial inequality that criminal justice reforms that aim to reduce inequality could be amplified by also addressing social inequalities. People of color have always been disproportionately represented in the criminal justice system. Injustice Watch interviewed experts on policing, criminal justice, and race on the growing racial disparities in Cook County courts. Experts attributed the growing racial disparities to long-standing disinvestment and over-policing. They argue that local lawmakers have leaned too heavily on the criminal justice system to solve social problems rather than addressing root causes of crime that disproportionately affect Black people and other marginalized communities, such as poverty, school inequity, a scarcity of living wage jobs, and a lack of affordable housing. The Reducing Racial Inequality in Crime and Justice, Science, Practice, and Policy report recommends federal and state agencies explore community-driven programs to improve safety and reduce harm from the criminal justice system. Community-driven approaches include initiatives in which residents build capacity to prevent violence through violence interruption programs or efforts to enhance accountability and transparency among law enforcement. The impacts of disproportionate contact with the criminal justice system for Latino, Black, and Native American communities persists. The United States is home to the second largest number of prisoners worldwide. It is estimated that nearly 2 million people so far have been incarcerated in the U.S. this year. The numbers don't lie. The nation has a problem with addressing crime by locking people up. And that does it for this edition of Three Questions With, a collaboration with Illinois Latino News and CAN TV. I invite you to look us up on our websites and chat with us via social media. Tell us what you think about the topics we talked about today, and please send me suggestions about what you think we should talk about in the future. Because at the Latino News Network, You're more than just our audience. You are our contributors. I'm Hugo Alta. Thank you all for watching.